All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Friday. Happy Friday to everyone out there, April 11th, and we have a full NBA slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'm going to give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the games as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That'll take you to all of my final plays, so I'm actually rolling with myself. If that does interest you, it's absolutely free down in the pinned comment. All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3 for more juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. In terms of yesterday, a 1-1 night, and man, oh man, I'm a little salty about that Grizzlies and Timberwolves game, because if you watch back yesterday's video, even I did, and I was like, you pretty much said exactly what would happen. You know what I mean? Like, that was just a dumb look there, taking that under. Very, very high scoring game. In fact, what was the final score of that one? 141 to 125. Should have just rolled with the Timberwolves, I guess. But ultimately, that under does not come through. But Kyle Kuzma being a good look, even if you ended up getting 20.5, that still cashes. But the over 19.5 PRA comes through for us. We don't have any ride of the days or a ride of the day to jump into or to shout out here. We didn't pick one yesterday. In fact, I think we will probably hold off on the ride of the day shoutouts until the playoffs start back up. So feel free to keep dropping the ride of the days in the comments, because you guys are helping out thousands of people that are seeing these and throwing out some really good plays and some winners for people. But in terms of us jumping aboard and doing an official ride of the day, NBA is a little wonky. Bunch of games today, no games tomorrow, bunch of games on Sunday, and they're all like really early in the day. Probably wait until the playoffs kind of kick into gear before we do jump back on the ride of the day train there. But what do you say we go ahead and dive into today's slate? Guys, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Appreciate you rocking with me, even if you're new or if you've watched all season long. Really, really do appreciate it. Let's jump into game number one here. Indiana taking on Orlando. Now, you might notice that some of the game breakdowns that we do may be pretty quick, or I might be indecisive on some of them, more so than normal. That is because some of these games don't matter. Some of these numbers and spreads are a little bit too much. There's a ton of guys that might just be sitting out, so just keep it in mind, and obviously do your own due diligence too, in terms of injuries and that type of stuff today, because today and Sunday will be kind of weird NBA-wise. But that applies to all games, including this one, I guess. Indiana taking on Orlando. Now, in terms of the standings, Indiana's just one game behind the Knicks for that 3 seed. Orlando's kind of solidified as that 7 seed, I would say. They're 4 games behind the Pistons, and then I think it's like 2 or 3 games above the Hawks. So Indiana probably looking at this one and wanting it a little bit more. Both of these squads, though, winning a bunch of games recently. 8-2 are the Magic, and then Indiana, exactly what we kind of said with them against the Cavs. They won that game, but did not cover. Indiana can win games and has been winning games, 8-2 in their last 10, but they do not cover. Now, 7.5 against an Orlando team that looks like they have a bunch of injuries, and everybody and their grandmother's ex-boyfriend are questionable on this roster. I would say Indiana -7.5 is the move, but Indiana money line in some sort of a parlay might be the move too, because again, no matter what that number is, like Indiana has had some -2.5 point spreads, and they've won by 2 and didn't cover. So that team just is not covering right now, but they sure as hell are winning games. In terms of what we have from a total perspective here, I would say that this is a game in which Indiana does up the tempo, and if Orlando's starters are all sitting, we don't really know what that defense is going to have behind, you know, the first layer, right? So I think I'm going to lean slightly to the over in this one, and I also don't mind a player prop of 2 player props, I guess. Obi Toppin, I kind of like his points, and then Andrew Nembhard here over rebounds plus assists. I think those guys hopefully could get some, you know, extra run as well if this game does turn into a blow, or Siakam, Halliburton, you know, Miles Turner, maybe they kind of sit. But again, if everyone on the Orlando side of things sits, this could just be a team in which Indiana kind of coasts, I guess. But yeah, Toppin and as well as Andrew Nembhard are 2 player props that I think that I would consider in this spot. Points for Toppin and then rebounds plus assists for Nembhard. Philadelphia taking on Atlanta. All right, this is one where we probably won't end up touching. Atlanta, you know, laying a big number on the road. I don't know how comfortable I am with that, but I will say this game in theory could still matter to them. And, they took a big win against Brooklyn. Maybe they were 13-point favorites and they took that one home. Similar situation here against Philadelphia, right? Philly's super, super injured. They have been. Now Grimes and Edwards also listed as questionable. Looks like the Hawks have the same injuries as normal. Capella and Nance out. I would say the Hawks probably win this one. But, their playoff standings and where they are, they're a game ahead of the Bulls, and maybe I think it's 2, like I said, against to the Magic, 1.5 or 2 or something like that. So I'm sure that they do want to win, but asking them to win by 12 seems like a little bit too much. But I can't just negate the fact that this game actually does hold a little bit of substance to them, whereas Philadelphia, it doesn't. So give me Atlanta in this spot. In terms of a total, that just seems awfully high. I mean, this Sixers team, their defense has been not all that tremendous, but we've also just kind of seen teams against them not really run with the fastest of pace. And then Atlanta's defense hasn't been all that great, but same exact thing. Like, we've seen plenty of low-scoring games with Atlanta recently. And when I say low-scoring, I'm talking like high 220s, low 230s. This total's at 241, so I could easily see this being a 235 game, and it's like, well, yeah, that's a pretty high number, but not into the 240s. I don't think there's enough efficiency on either side here. So I'll lean towards an under. In terms of player props, I want to see if we had anything. I don't think we had anything in this one. No player props in this one. This isn't one of those games that I'm really, really invested in today. Detroit taking on Milwaukee. I think this could be a good game, in all honesty. In terms of Detroit, they're coming off of a win yesterday against the Knicks. Milwaukee coming off of a win yesterday against New Orleans. Both teams handled business, right? Detroit beat New York by like 9 or 10. Milwaukee blew out the Pelicans. We do want to take a peek and keep an eye on the injury report. Nothing really as of right now. Everyone looks good to go. But again, this is a back-to-back, and anything can happen with that because they have to report a little bit later. But these two teams are pretty damn close. Pistons at the 6th seed here and Milwaukee at the 5 seed, 2 games separating them. I guess, Detroit would say, well, we have to win to potentially move up, but that's going to be pretty damn hard to do. But at the same time, Bucks probably looking to build some momentum heading into the playoffs, and their last, 6 games or so would be a good example of that. Have they played the toughest competition? No, but they've played, a couple, good games, I guess, Minnesota being one of those in which they won. They were at home though, but they've won 6 straight games and they're 5-1 against the number. Detroit has been up and down, but they've been a little banged up, right? Detroit's had some injury woes recently. They should be good to go now though, again, if everybody plays, and I do think that is a big, if to note. But in this one, I do think that this is a close game, so all of a sudden I'm starting to look at the idea of Milwaukee, but I think Detroit is going to start to close out this season pretty damn well, and just the fact that, they had a kind of big game to win yesterday tells me a little something. And the fact that they have a lot of young legs under them. I think only Cade played over 30 minutes as well. So I would say that's a really good sign too on a back-to-back. But they have some young legs under them, whereas Milwaukee, a little bit older of a team. I don't know if they're going to be, thriving in that back-to-back type situation. On the season though, if we do look at back-to-backs here, Detroit, 67% of their games they've covered in. Milwaukee just 21. So that kind of helps us out as well. I'm going to lean towards Detroit minus the points in this one. I did try to get to Milwaukee, like I said, because I think this is close. But even if this line moves, maybe we can even buy a half point or something like that, get it to 5, maybe 4.5 if we get lucky with some injuries. I think Detroit has this one, especially being at home. But if you're on Milwaukee today and you like the momentum Milwaukee has behind them, I really don't mean to talk you off of it whatsoever. In terms of what we have from a total, this is an interesting one because I do think that Detroit they're kind of a perplexing team in a sense. They have a good defense, but they can also run the hell out of the ball when they want to, right? Now, on back-to-backs, neither one of these teams have really been an over-esque team. And I do think that at the end of the day, this is a decent Milwaukee defense when they do lock in and when they actually, try to play defense, as well as the Detroit side of things. Like, I think Detroit's team, though they do have some offensive studs and whatnot, this team will go as far as their defense takes them. So with the emphasis on defense here, I will slightly lean towards the under. We've seen some high-scoring games between these two squads, though. They played twice this year. One of them went to overtime, 120, excuse me, and the other one was 128 to 107. So I think Detroit, one, gets their get back, and defense is, played pretty well today. In terms of where I'd go from a player prop perspective, I do like the idea, again, of kind of looking at Ryan Rollins. Yesterday, he had 12 points. We liked him. He didn't get the assist, but he ended up having 12 points. I do like the fact that he's getting the minutes, right? He's playing, 25-ish minutes or so. So we could look at him in some way, maybe like a points plus assists. The one concern I have is the usage. Even without Damian Lillard, obviously he's sliding into that role. He doesn't necessarily get the same usage you'd expect being the point guard of the Bucks. But it's still a spot in which I think there's some value. Like his points line's at 6.5. Still seems like there's some value there. But even like yesterday, we didn't feel like it was enough to roll with, and we almost wish we did, but you know what I mean? Like it's still betting on a guy that just doesn't really seem to have the consistency. But guys, before we do move on, go ahead and check out Underdog. It's Masters weekend, baby, and I just sat on the couch with some drinks and watched Masters all day long yesterday. It was awesome. No better time of the year than that. But even if you don't like golf, you get a free pick over on Underdog. Go utilize it. Bryson DeChambeau, every day, no matter which day you sign up throughout the Masters, you're going to get one of these squares, 0.5 strokes. So if you sign up today, you'll get it for today. You sign up tomorrow, you'll get it for tomorrow. You're going to get that Bryson 0.5 stroke square. And that's really helpful because you throw that into an entry, and it's just going to boost your payout, right? So go ahead and check out Underdog. If you don't know what it is and you like player props, then you should marry those two because you are missing out on a really easy, cool, and great interfaced app. You can do it on the computer or on your phone. You put 2 or more players into an entry. The more you get paid out, or the more you win, the more you get paid out. Go ahead and check it out. You also get a deposit match up to $1,000 over on Underdog. That link will be down below in the description as well as the pinned comment. Boston taking on Charlotte in terms of injuries here. Jaylen Brown's listed as out. Obviously, we know Charlotte's super injured. I wouldn't be surprised if we see this injury report, or at least these guys not play full minutes on the Boston side of things. If I really did have to pick a side here, I still would lean, I guess, Celtics, but winning by 20 is a awful big ask. It's just like there's a few teams in the league that when I talk about throwing in the towel but not even being good in the first place, it's like Charlotte's kind of the best example of that, right? They just lost by 30 to Toronto, or was it 30? Yeah, 30 to Toronto. I think that they can lose by 20 to the Celtics, right? They've lost 2 straight games by 24 or more points. So do we actually get down with it ourselves? No, 20 points is crazy. It's not necessary at this point in the season, but I can't help but side towards that direction. You know what I mean? Like it'd be too crazy for me to think, Toronto, Charlotte can keep this game close. It's like based on what? Realistically, there's nothing to base that off of. One spot that I don't necessarily mind player prop wise, we'll get to the total in a second, and this is really assuming that we see a decent amount of minutes and whatnot, but Derek White over 9.5 rebounds plus assists could be a spot in which I consider today. The blow potential is real, though. That is definitely very, very worrisome, but this dude has been crushing it. His last 10 games, 12.5 rebounds plus assists. He's hit this plenty of times against Charlotte as well. Last time he had 10, the time before that just 7, but he had a decent amount of rebound chances and potential assists, and then the time before that he had 14. So I think this is a good spot. As weird as it is, Charlotte's not the worst pick and roll defense. They're not the worst spot up defense, which is how Derek White scores his 2 predominant ways of scoring. So I could see him kind of diming it up. And like I said, we've been seeing him do that. He had 9 assists and 8 rebounds last game against the Knicks. Before that, he only had 5 and 1 against Washington. Okay, but then ready for this one? We're going to go most recent to least recent. The previous 8 games before that, right? 7 games before that, 16, 10, 18, 14, 11, 13, 11. And then the one that he didn't hit it on, which was the 10th most recent game, he ended at 9. So Derek White could be a look today. That total all the way down there at 214 makes sense to me. This Celtics team, like I mentioned, I think that they're kind of done with the year. We saw they're not going anywhere in terms of standing, and we saw them play pretty much no one against Orlando, play at a slow pace. The game before that against the Knicks, sure, that was nice, 119 to 117, but it took overtime to get there. I don't mind the idea of an under, but what we could definitely look at, and it's been something that has been, we've been looking at recently and cashing on, would be Charlotte's team total under. The Celtics, if they do play their guys, there's a combination here of just a really good defense, even if they don't try to, but then Charlotte also just stinks out loud. You know what I mean? So Charlotte under 99.5 would be the look. Doesn't that seem super low? It does, but it might be the only way to play the total here. Knicks taking on Cleveland. We can breeze through this one because the Knicks most likely will take this one. Now, they still want a win, right, to kind of hold that 3 seed, and that would be huge if they did. So I give them a little bit of credit there, but if we look at it from the Cleveland perspective, Cleveland looks like they're not going to be playing anybody, and I really don't blame them. All those guys missed last game, and now we have Garland, Mitchell, Struz, Mobley as questionable. You're saying, oh, questionable, they might play, but look at that spread. 9.5-point dogs as the best team in the East, record-wise. I just don't really see it. So this is probably a game in which we don't necessarily touch. Just like we did, recently, I would say if we were to go through any player props or anything like that, we may consider some of those role players like we did last time out. Ultimately, I mean, that was I would say a decent look. So Cleveland in that loss yesterday to Indiana, right? We did say DeAndre Hunter played really well, and then Ty Jerome also played really well. We didn't take either of those, but if you watch back yesterday's video, those are the two guys, and those are literally the two guys that ended up doing the bulk of the scoring for Cleveland. So I'd do the same exact thing if we get news that all of those guys are out. In terms of a total, I don't mind an over. I think the Knicks are really trying to shore up their offense and make sure it's good to go. And it didn't look all that good against Detroit, but it looked fine against Boston, right? That game went to overtime. It looked good against Atlanta. One of their other recent games, they scored like 113 or something like that. And against these Cavs, we've seen some decent high-scoring games. So I'll lean towards the slight over as well. Chicago taking on Washington, hard pass for me in this one. No player props either. I'd lean toward Chicago, but that's a huge, huge number to lay. I also don't mind the idea of an under in this one. Neither team is efficient enough for me, but Chicago could get going and hit some threes, obviously, but this is just a kind of a no-go game for me. Miami taking on New Orleans. Miami, the 10 seed right now. They are just a game back of Chicago, but again, Chicago's playing Washington, so that gets a little bit dicey. New Orleans, obviously out of the playoffs at this point. They are on a back-to-back as well. This 13-point number is already up to 14, and we don't even know if Tyler Hero's playing. We don't know if Alec Burks is playing. Looks like that's kind of the only main injuries there, but everyone is either questionable or out for New Orleans, so I would say I still like Miami in this spot. They have a little something to play for. They've won 7 of their last 10 games. Some of these losses, I mean, the game against Chicago, they did lose by like 8, but some of the losses were against decent teams, right? Memphis, Milwaukee. I think this Miami team's defense is at least good enough to carry them in this one. So I'll lean Miami, but again, 14.5 points is just a heck of a big number for a team like Miami that might not even have their undebatably best player. You know what I mean? So that worries me a little bit. Maybe we take a peek at New Orleans under 100.5 team total because we know we'll get a decent defense out of Miami, or at least we should. So yeah, New Orleans team total under or Miami laying the points. Maybe Miami money line in some sort of a slimy parlay. That might be the move today, guys. Taking some of these big favorites and just throwing them all in a money line, having a few sweats out there, but not exactly the most ideal situation, I guess, in terms of sports betting because you don't want, like, Miami is a good team. They have something to play for. Pelicans stink. Everything leans towards in points towards the Miami side, but asking a team like Miami to win by 15 just gets dicey to me. And I'm sure that they can and maybe even will, but it's like, at what point is the end of the season the hindrance, right? I think we're there. In terms of total, like I said, New Orleans team total under probably most likely going to be something that we consider. Let me double check to make sure we don't have any player props listed in this one. I don't believe we do. I do. Andrew Wiggins points and rebounds over 19.5. I guess that could be a look as well. That's definitely a good look in terms of how it's been trending, and he should be able to hit the 3 as well as get to the paint against them. So yeah, maybe we do look at Andrew Wiggins over 19.5 points plus rebounds. I actually have that on my list, and I kind of forgot about it, but I did like that this morning a lot before recording. Dallas taking on Toronto. Bunch of injuries in this one. So Scotty Barnes, again, credit to him. The dude is just sticking around and still playing. But no RJ Barrett, no Jakob Poeltl, no Quickly, no Walter, no, did I say Jakob Poeltl? No RJ Barrett as well. I think I said everyone's name. But pretty much everybody but, RJ Barrett sitting this one out. On the Dallas side of things, Anthony Davis questionable. Hardy questionable. Klay Thompson questionable. Dante Exum questionable. Spencer Dinwiddie questionable. So we're definitely going to need to see some of those before thinking about Dallas minus the points, but Dallas at 11 doesn't seem like the biggest number to me. I mean, I wish it was right around, 9, but I have a feeling it's going to move in the wrong direction for us here. But this is a team that, in terms of where they stand, they are the 10 seed right now, a game back of the Kings. Have they been playing good basketball? I guess we can't really go down that path, but it's not like Toronto has anything to play for, right? And the games that Toronto have been winning, Charlotte, Philadelphia, Brooklyn, Washington, Charlotte again, Brooklyn, those are their 6 wins in their last 10 games. San Antonio, they got beat by Detroit, Portland, Chicago. So if you have a pulse, you can beat this Toronto team. And Dallas at least should have a pulse, right? Knowing that they're going to be a playoff team. I know that they've had some injury concerns and whatnot, and they even do today in terms of questionabilities, but they should be looking to, one, bounce back after a few straight bad losses. This is by far and away the easiest team that they've had to face, especially with all the injuries. So, yeah, screw it. Give me Dallas minus the double digits there. Total sitting at 224.5 right now. So it's moved a little bit. I don't mind the idea of a Dallas team total over if we can get at a good number. This Toronto team, if I give them a little bit of credit in anything in this lane, it's going to be that I think that they kind of up the pace. And Dallas, we know, will play fast as well. So let's see if we can get an updated line on their team total over, because it was a little bit out of, comfortability range. Over 116.5, over 117.5. They haven't done that in 4 of their last 5 games. A little worrisome there, but again, Toronto, everyone's injured. I do think that we could see a high-scoring game in this one. For what it's worth, Toronto, like I said, is a fast-paced team. They haven't exactly been playing crazy fast. Like, their offense has looked good, but their strength of schedule in the last recent, chunk of games is like, what do we even make of that? And then player props. I want to see some of these injuries pan out and how they shake out in terms of the Dallas side of things before considering that. I'm only considering Dallas player props, but nothing to share right now. Denver taking on Memphis. They're 7-point favorites, which does seem high, but it makes sense, right? Memphis off of a loss yesterday. They're on the back-to-back. Denver coming off of a win against Sacramento after getting rid of their coach. This is one of those games, though, where the standings are super, super tied in. So Denver, the 4 seed right now, their record is 48-32. The Grizzlies, the 7 seed, they are just 47-33. They are a game off of Denver. So this game is massive. And what's really cool, I keep saying it, 2 games separate the 3 seed Lakers and the 8 seed Timberwolves. Like, this is awesome to watch. We have 3 teams tied with the 6, 7, and 8 seed, 2 teams 4 and 5, and then the Lakers, like I said, they're not all that safe. They're still just sitting there at the 3 seed, just a game up on the Nuggets. I want to say that this is a Nuggets game all day long. Jamal Murray, though, may miss this one. And Memphis on back-to-backs realistically is a team that you've been able to trust this year, 57.1% in terms of their back-to-backs. The thing that kind of puts this over the top for me is the fact that Denver, I do believe, has the ability to slow things down. And I'm really thinking with all this drama and buzz around about firing Mike Malone and stuff, I'm hoping that kind of brings them together in a sense. And let's not forget that Memphis is still going to be without Jalen Wells, who is a big piece to that team, like just because he's a young kid, we can't negate the fact that, or just ignore the fact, I should say, that this kid is out and he hurt himself. I think his arm and his face when he fell back after dunking. I kind of got clipped by the opposing player. But, I'm not ready to just sit here and be like, oh, well, Memphis is the same team without him. I think that that's a big piece. So if Jokic, and, I wish Murray was playing, but if that starting 5 is locked in, I do think that they have that, 37-minute advantage over Memphis. Memphis is pretty damn deep. I will give them credit there, but they're a little banged up right now. So I'm going to lean towards Denver. This is a spot in which I could definitely see the Memphis Grizzlies keeping it close, and 7 points seems like it's a decent number. This is now down to actually 6.5, so we might wait this one out. If we can get an alternate line of Denver, minus 4.5 or something, maybe in some sort of same game parlay where we look at something that fits player prop wise, that might be the way to go. Because again, I wouldn't knock someone for feeling confident in the fourth quarter having a Memphis +7 ticket. You know what I mean? That is a pretty big number against a Denver team who the defense has not been all that tremendous, and Memphis can sure as hell run. Player prop that I'd look at, and I just think it's because this dude is going to legit give everything. I don't care if it's on a back-to-back or anything like that. Ja Morant over 25.5 points. The dude has just been balling, right? In terms of his season, he's only averaging 23.5, but you flip it to his last 10 games, he's averaging nearly 30 points per game. So I think that he's going to run. This is a Denver team that, like I said, if they slow you down, it's going to be tough, but I just think the volume will be there, right? Even yesterday, 36 on 27 shots. Before that, 21 shots, 22 shots, 22 shots, 23 shots, 22 shots. The dude is chucking, and if we can get 24 shots out of Ja Morant, I don't think there's any reason why he can't go out there and score 25, 26 points. So when he does shoot, like I said, 24, right? This is on the season. When Ja Morant shoots 24 times, he's hit this in 80% of his games. Even when he just shoots 20 plus, he's hit it in 65. So with what he's been doing in terms of field goal attempts, this should be something that we can look at and potentially play. So keep an eye on the final plays, definitely considering it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you under. I think that this might be an under game, but I am not rolling with it myself. If we put totals on the DMB graveyard headstones, this might be one of them. So I'm not rolling with it, but I don't necessarily love the over in that game. I'll tell you that much. It seems a little bit too high if I think Denver's going to slow things down. Just saying. Minnesota taking on Brooklyn. Now, I don't think I'll touch Minnesota minus the 19, but Minnesota surely wants to win this game, just like Denver and Memphis and all those other teams we've talked about being in the mix in the West there. Timberwolves right there. They're in the 8th spot. Big win for them last night. Right now, they're the same exact record as the Warriors, Grizzlies, and Timberwolves. If Denver beats Memphis, Minnesota beats Brooklyn here. Really good situation for them, right? Especially given the fact that, some of these other teams that are ahead of them, like the Warriors, the Lakers, like it's not like they're just foregone conclusions going to win today. So I think Minnesota turns it on in this one, but at the same time, so do the books. It's a 19-point spread here. Minnesota has been decent in back-to-backs this year. 54% of their games they have covered in, but when you're talking about winning by 20 points, it's a little sketchy. I will say Brooklyn, in their back-to-back situation there, and again, we didn't really capitalize on it, but we sniffed it out. Atlanta beat them by over 20, right? So it's like, yeah, maybe Minnesota can if Atlanta can. I'm going to also lean towards an over. I do think that Brooklyn's defense is just kind of off the beaten path, and Minnesota's offense, if you don't like the idea of them going out there and winning by 20, maybe we just say, hey, go off and give us a bunch of points, right? You scored 140 yesterday. Like, that took I think they scored over 50 points in the third quarter alone, so that obviously helps. But this could be a spot for them to say, hey, screw it. Let's go out there and just put up a big number. And we know that Brooklyn's not offensively good enough to even keep up with us regardless. You know what I mean? Like, that could just solve it. It's like, we score enough, we'll win this game. In terms of player props, I kind of like Rudy Gobert in this spot over 10.5 points. In Brooklyn's defense, like I said, has definitely been lacking. Now, I will say Nick Claxton's in there, which if he wasn't, I'd love this even more. But in terms of Rudy Gobert, we shouldn't see an issue with him getting some of these putback opportunities. In Brooklyn, the last 3 games, 3rd worst points in the paint, and now they're closing out the season as the 10th worst points in the paint. They're allowing at the rim, right? 70.1, over 70% of field goal percentage against in the paint here. So I think Rudy Gobert could be in a good spot today. He hit 21 last time he played this Brooklyn team. So as long as the minutes are there, I do like the idea of Rudy Gobert. Also considering the idea of him for a double-double, right? Like both his points and rebounds line are right around there, but double-double for plus money, I think it's like plus 125 right now, could also be something that we like the idea of, but you'd probably have to get that quickly because I have a feeling this thing is going to, shoot down in value. Utah taking on OKC. Looks like OKC is finally saying, okay, we'll slow down here. Caruso, Dang, Dort, Shea, Hartenstein, Holmgren, Wallace, and Williams, the good Jalen Williams or the all-star Jalen Williams, all listed as out. So we have Mitchell, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, Williams, and Jalen Williams as the starting Kendrick Williams, and then Jalen Williams, the big man, as the starting lineup. I still don't necessarily want to sit here and say that that's a bad move looking at the Thunder minus the points, but I don't think that we get there ourselves. Collier's questionable. Then we have Collins, Harkless, Kessler, Markkanen, and KJ Martin all out for this Utah team. Utah's definitely a team that said, all right, you know what, it's been enough basketball for us for the season. We tried, didn't have much success. They're coming off a win against Portland a few days ago as well. I don't think that this game's going to matter at all, so I'm going to lean towards OKC and potentially the under, because I think the guys that are in OKC's lineup kind of want to, or can be a little dirt dogs in terms of defense and whatnot. So I'll go OKC under, but that's all I'd consider in this one. This is a weird one with pretty much everybody. Like there's quite literally almost double digits, maybe double digits, guys out in this game. All right, we got the Kings taking on the Clips. Now, in terms of playoff implications, the Kings are either the 9 or 10 seed. That's pretty much solidified. They're a game up on the Mavericks from being the 10 seed. So they're looking okay right now. The Clippers tied with the Nuggets for the 4 and 5 seed. I don't know the tiebreaker there, but they're only a game up on the 6, 7, and 8 seed. So this is obviously a massive spot for the Clips. Powell and Zubac listed as questionable. Same thing with Coffee, Batum, and Mills. Actually, those guys are out. Norm Powell and Zubac missing this game would be massive. Now, no Malik Monk on the Kings side of things, and potentially no Keegan Murray. So a ton of injuries to at least keep our eyes on here for this one, right? Ultimately, I would say that this Clippers team should be able to beat this Sacramento team, especially given the fact that, the Clippers, their offenses look very good. They need to reel in their defense just a little bit. They've been playing a little soft defense, but Sacramento, when they play good teams, it seems like they struggle. That being said, they have beat a few good teams recently, but they did just lose to Denver. Clippers coming off of a nice win against Houston, and we've seen some of these serious games where Clippers say, okay, well, let's go out there and do our thing. You know what I mean? Like Kawhi and James Harden are kind of torching right now in a sense when they both play. So I'm going to lean Clippers in this spot. I cannot place that or lock that in without knowing about Powell, without knowing about Zubac. That is for damn sure. So make sure we do keep an eye on that injury report if you guys are interested in that side. If you like Sacramento, you might get a good number now because those guys may play. So it might be worth like a gamble on the gamble if that makes sense. But I just can't get to Sacramento today. Give me the Clips. In terms of what we have from a total, I would say that this one finishes right around 227, so slight lean towards the over. For the reason that I said that this Clippers team has really been good offensively, and they like to score in the paint, which is where Sacramento's good defensively. So if they can just combat that and still score at some decent rate in the paint, maybe some threes start to fall as well. And then player props, I definitely want to wait out those injuries. All right, guys, if you made it this far into the video, go ahead and comment 30. Appreciate you spending a half hour with me. Really do appreciate it. We've tried to go through this 15-game slate at a relatively decent pace, which isn't always our strong suit, but hopefully we did for you guys. In this one, we got Portland taking on Golden State. Golden State being one of those teams that is, in the 6, 7, 8 conversation, potentially looking to move up to the 4 and 5. 13 points does not seem like it's enough to be giving a team that has been playing some decent basketball. So I don't mind the idea of the Warriors here. Again, I'm kind of being a little wimp in terms of laying some of these big numbers, but the Warriors have lost 2 of their last 3. They probably want to jump back on board, so maybe they do come out firing today. We know Portland, in terms of their defense and how they've played decent defense this year, has been on the perimeter. I think that they've been a decent in the paint defense when healthy, but their bigs have been so unhealthy. But Portland and Golden State both in the last 10 games have been shooting the same way from above the break. Both teams defend this fairly well. Give me Golden State, but also a potential lean towards the under. But I also could get convinced of a Portland team total under. I don't want to necessarily, fade the Warriors offense because this Portland defense at any given moment can kind of just blow up, right? And they have a ton of guys out in this one. No Simons, no Advia, Jeremy Grant, Scoot Henderson, Sharp. So they do have a ton of the guys out. So I'd probably say, okay, well, if we like an under, maybe let's make it Portland specific. Under 107.5 could be a decent look there. Now, they've been crushing that line. Don't get me wrong. I can't really say that, it's a good look that way, but they're only averaging 107, in the last 6 meetings against Golden State. When they're at home against Golden State, they've hit the under in 2 straight. So maybe Golden State does lock them up today. Golden State and the under, but a Portland team total under specifically. Phoenix taking on San Antonio. I'll just take the underdog in this spot. I mean, Phoenix probably maybe playing for a little bit of pride, but ultimately no Vassell, no Johnson, no Sohan for San Antonio. Phoenix, no Durant, no Richards. Neither one of these squads should be caring about the playoffs or anything like that. So, yeah, I'll lean San Antonio. I think that they just probably are the younger team with a little bit more hunger, whereas they're kind of like, oh, let's go, we don't get this opportunity, blah blah blah, whereas the Suns might be sitting there, and again, it's mights and ifs that we're talking about in this game. The Suns might be like, all right, well, this season is chalked, we're annoyed and kicking rocks, that type of thing. So San Antonio in this spot. In terms of where we go from a total perspective, again, if I don't love this game, it's tough to say, but I'll lean towards the over. I don't think either one of these defenses is going to be all that stellar. All right, Lakers taking on Houston. In terms of standings, Houston, good to go where they are in the 2 seed. Lakers, though, they're in the 3 seed, which is great, but they're only a game up on the Nuggets and the Clippers, and that's the 4-5 seed. And then they're only 2 games up, and I know that's pretty tough to gain 2 games with, 2 to go, but they're only 2 games up of the 6, 7, and 8 seed. So I do think that this Lakers team should be caring about this game and should want to win this game. They're coming off of a nice win against Dallas. Luka's time back home. That was a 112-97 win. These 2 teams played recently at the end of March, and the Lakers won 104-98. They played before that, and the Rockets won. So this is kind of to decide the season series here. This Houston team, to me, they're either, I mean, if Van Fleet and, Şengün play, same with Jabari Smith, I guess. Obviously, it's a little bit different, but I don't necessarily think that they need this game. And you can even see that by the spread, 10 points, right? So I think the Lakers win this one. And honestly, being at home, knowing the situation, I think that some of the veteranness on that team, whether it's LeBron or even Luka with some playoff experience now, I think they know that a big win here, meaning they put up a decent number, could go a long way in terms of momentum. So I like the Lakers here minus the 10. I'd probably buy a half point to get to 9.5 just so we can be content with a 10-point win, not for value or anything like that. In terms of what we have from a total, I don't mind the idea of an under. I would say that this is a spot in which, obviously Lakers defense better at home. Houston, we know, has a good defense, so maybe that is a look that we can at least potentially dig into a little bit more of an under. And then player props, we might add some. I don't have any right now, but keep an eye on the final plays. Guys, it's going to wrap it up for today's show. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. Like I said, if you cross that 30-minute mark, go ahead and comment 30. I really do appreciate everyone sticking around and just, rocking with us till the very end of the season, especially when the end of the season is a little dicey, right? And it always is in the NBA, so we can't act like we're surprised. But this playoffs, and actually in that West, not in terms of like betting, but in the West, that sort of 3 through 8 seed has just been pure entertainment. If you guys are basketball fans and you haven't kind of tapped into that, make sure to do so, because it means a lot. But I'm very excited for these playoffs, and I really do appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll catch you guys in the next one, right? Peace out.